setting yourself up with the ability to give you an excuse for not hitting your goals. That's something we're going to dive into. I'm Ollie Matthews, a healer that works as a health and wellness coach for high achieving entrepreneurs to get them from the brink of burning out to true peak performance without any overwhelm, using functional medicine, nutrition therapy, lifestyle coaching, and training methods to keep it simple and get results in a busy world. Added that last bit on the end there, just to make it relevant to this video. Now, I've had a couple of conversations, one in the gym today, and then yesterday over some voice notes with a very old friend of mine, talking about how we overcomplicate things with our health. Now, we see some very deep podcasts out there nowadays. One podcast I absolutely love is the Huberman Lab. And Andrew Huberman is a lecturer at Stanford, and he speaks some very good stuff on his podcast. The only trouble is, this is very intricate stuff. And a lot of people look at the things that Huberman talks about on his podcast and really try to do these top of the mountain things. And what I mean about top of the mountain things is that we're not doing the basics first. Now, I'm a big fan of Everest and the whole methodology of climbing a mountain and pushing yourself. Now, what a lot of people are essentially trying to do when it comes to their health is climb the mountain without acclimatizing. Now, when someone goes to climb Everest, they'll take around 12 days to trek to base camp, and then they'll acclimatize at base camp for a couple of weeks. And some people won't even go up the mountain. They'll just be acclimatizing there. Then that's their trek done. Maybe they can't actually, their body won't let them go up. But when people do go up the mountain, they go up to camp 1, they come back down, acclimatize. Up camp 1 and camp 2, down, acclimatize. Another round to 3. Some people come back down. Some people go to camp 4, the death zone, and summit. But they have to acclimatize first, no matter where they are. And so many of us aren't doing that when it comes to our health. When I work with people as a functional medicine practitioner, as someone who truly does get results with people's health, I still want to keep it simple. I still want to keep it basic. Now, the people that I'm working with are super stressed out, and they are super busy. And they're super, to keep it super, they're those super people that are driven with their business and high achieving. They haven't got loads of time to do all these fancy things. So even though I have access to a lot of tests that a lot of doctors don't have access to, especially here in England on the NHS, we don't necessarily need those. And there are 3 stages, and I've spoken about these stages before. 3 stages when it comes to health and fitness. Most people will only need to be on stage 1 to get to the goals that they have. They won't need to do stage 2, and they definitely won't need to do stage 3. Now, stage 1, you get around 80% of the results. Stage 1 is doing the basics. Stage 1 is just focusing on getting real food in. Stage 1 is making sure that you get consistency with your protein. Stage 1 may be just getting some basic movement in, maybe going to the gym, doing some basic lifting 3 times a week, going for plenty of walks, getting your steps in, basic stuff. Stage 1 is also where you go to sleep at the same time, you wake at the same time, you stay hydrated. Maybe if you are going to have a supplement, you have some magnesium or you have some multivitamins or things like that. Some very basic stuff. But so many people, if they were consistent with these foundational things, they're the things that get you ahead. They're the things that allow your body to work optimally or better. They will allow your body to work better and move forward with your health. Now, these things, they can get boring if we're doing them over and over again. And that's where people have to decide, do I want this dopamine hit or do I want results? Because then we move on to stage 2. Now, you're probably going to have heard of a lot of the things in stage 2. No doubt you may have tried them. Things like intermittent fasting, things like going vegan, going carnivore, all these different diets. Maybe it's a training method. Maybe you're doing some specifics when it comes to training, whether you're doing some bodybuilding techniques, some CrossFit techniques, some powerlifting techniques. Maybe it's running techniques, whatever it is, some deeper training, more specificity there. And these things are probably going to get you another 15% of results. But a lot of people don't need to do these. You don't need to do those detoxes, those cleansers, and all these sorts of things that you see people do and shout about. Maybe it's going out to get cryotherapy. Maybe it's going out to get IV treatments, all this sort of stuff. Not really a big believer in the IV treatments, to be fair. Like, we should have our body working in a good way anyway. But so many people will go straight to this stage 2. Start talking about it. Great. Then we get into stage 3. Now, stage 3 is where most of the things I see, the more in-depth things that come across on these podcasts, comes into play. Now, you're going to get that last 5%, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top from these 5%. And these are things that you see that people like to shout about, those biohacks that people are talking about, those deeper supplements that people are talking about. And one of the conversations that came up with one of my friends was talking about, should I get my VO2 max tested and do some VO2 max training because it said on the Huberman Lab this is the most optimal? And I asked him, what are your goals? And he said that he's struggling with fat loss, but he's doing as good as he can on nutrition and he's managing his stress, and he's got his sleep hygiene okay and things like this. And he's pushing his workouts. He's doing a lot of boot camp type workouts. And I had to say to him that if you're doing these hard workouts, these boot camp style workouts, these weight training workouts, plus some intense cardio on top of things, I have to ask and question, are you managing your stress as good as you can? Now, with your nutrition, are you managing your nutrition as good as you can? Are you just eating good food consistently, making sure you're managing your blood glucose levels? Again, testing would not be necessarily in stage 1. That's more a stage 2 side of things. But we can set up our nutrition to balance our blood glucose levels without needing to test it. The same with sleep. Have we got a good habit around sleep? Have we got a good habit around hydration? All these different things. There is no need for the fancy things, especially when it comes to training. Now, I come from a bodybuilding background with a lot of endurance experience. And I used to work with professional endurance athletes on their nutrition and training methods. And we got some great results. Now, those that were the most successful, I'm talking about people that have competed in the Tour de France, in the Olympic Games, world champion Ultraman athlete I worked with, Iñaki de la Peña. Those guys were doing the things that worked over and over and over again. Yes, they would look at research. Yes, they might try some slightly different things, but they would not overcomplicate it. Those people done the basics well, repeated, and got the results. Speaking to a guy in the gym today, one of the strongest people in the gym, doing the basic lifts over and over again. Now, there's a trainer called Jonathan Goodman who trains a lot of other trainers, not the coach that coaches to coach and so on. But Jonathan put a post out. He's got the PT Academy. He put a post out saying about like the best workout is the one that does the boring stuff over and over again. We don't need to change it all the time. When we see people, so many people on Instagram that are doing this fancy kickback with a side flip and while standing on your head and things like that, those aren't going to be the things that get the results. But they are the sexy things that will get likes. And this is where we have to differentiate. The same with people doing 75 hard, is that 75 hard being this 2 workouts a day, reading 10 pages, drinking water, following a diet, not having a cheat meal, all these sorts of things. Many people that try these methods is that if you fall off that, you have to go back to day 1. Many people that have tried these have searched for the dopamine release elsewhere and haven't been able to stick to 3 sessions a week for 5-6 months whilst eating pretty decent, whilst getting hydrated, whilst going to sleep. If you haven't been able to do that, what makes you think that doing 2 workouts a day, every single day for 75 days, one of them being outside, whilst reading, whilst drinking, whilst not falling off your diet is going to actually help you. Now, one of the things that we notice is that when we overcomplicate things, deep down in our subconscious, we absolutely know that we're not going to be able to follow it. So therefore, what happens is that we justify it and we make it okay. We can't do that much, so we do nothing. The amount of times I've had clients come to me and they said, Ollie, I want to train 5 days a week. Now, training is a small part of what I do. Most of my clients will have their own trainer, or they actually not even need to train. Then I have some clients that I work my training through an app. It's all branded to OJ Health, that it goes through. I write the programs, they get it delivered to their phones, they go into the gym, they do the workouts, they write everything down. It's awesome. It's great. But when people come to me and they say that I want to get quick results, they've got great results in their business, I have to ask them, did their business get to 7 figures overnight? No, they had to work for it. They had to build it up. And I say, the stuff you're doing now, would you be overwhelmed if you got chucked all that stuff on day one? The answer would be yes. So what difference would it make if I just chucked 5 workouts a day, cut all these foods out, and made it really, really hard for you to actually be compliant with? Wouldn't be sustainable. Now, some people will still say, I want to do 5 workouts a week. Wouldn't recommend it. Let's try it for 2 weeks and see whether you can do it. And they do 1 or 2. Okay, well, let's start with 2 workouts. Let's get consistent with 2 workouts, then build up to 3. And it's the same with the deeper health stuff as well. There's no way that I'm going to get a client that has got all these things going on deeper in their health, so much inflammation in their body, they've got so much cravings, such poor blood glucose management, such brain fog, memory problems, plus they're getting hangry as well. So they're lashing out at people around them. They're overwhelmed. They're anxious. That I'm not going to change everything. This is why I work with people for at least 6 months, is that we are going to work one small step at a time, one single day at a time. And we're going to implement that, then move to the next one, then move to the next one, then move to the next one. We build up these habits. So many times people have fallen off. So many times they fall off and then they try another thing which is so unrealistic and wonder why it doesn't work. Rather than doing the things which aren't sexy to shout about on Facebook, but make you sexy, make you grow your business, make your kids look at you differently, make your wife, your husband look at you like they cannot take their hands off you. They're the things that make you truly sexy, not constantly saying you're going to do something and not doing it and overcomplicating it, going for these stage 3, 5% results when you haven't done the 85%, the 95% of it. They're the things that are going to get the results. If you need help with that, you know exactly where I am. Drop me a message. Or if you want to check out my presentation, Is This Burnout? Totally free. Go to www.ojayhealth.com/burnout. You can sign up to the mailing list. You get the link to the video, and there'll be loads of other awesome information that come through. You can reply to the emails. You can drop me a message, and we can chat further about working with you on a more one-to-one basis